The chains snap all at once. Not slowly, all at once. The ground splits. The wolf opens his jaw and the sun slides in like it was always meant to. He has waited in the dark for longer than most worlds last. The Saliva River dried and filled again. Thousands of winters. Tonight the ribbon finally breaks. How does a wolf end a world? More importantly, why did a world make a wolf that would? Tonight we go back. Before the chain, before the cave, before the fear. The gods didn't fear Fenrir because of what he'd done. They feared him for what a prophecy said he would do. He was innocent. They chained him anyway. Prophecy told the Allfather, this wolf will swallow you whole. So Odin built a chain. The wolf broke it. He built another. The wolf broke that too. He asked the dwarves. The dwarves made something that looked like nothing. A ribbon from impossible materials. The wolf suspected. He made one condition. One god must put a hand in his mouth. Have you been patient today with something that wasn't fair? Tar held out his hand to a wolf who had every reason not to trust him. He knew what it would cost. He did it anyway. Get comfortable now. Settle in, find your warmth. If you drift off before Fenrir breaks free, the ancient wolf won't mind. He's been waiting longer than that. If nights like these feel good to you, the subscribe button keeps them coming. No pressure. Just more ancient stories waiting whenever you need them. Now, our story begins. Loki was many things the gods distrusted. Father was one of them. 3 children born of Angrboda, a giantess the gods feared. The youngest was a wolf. The Norns had already woven it. Fenrir, Jormungandr, Hel, each one destined to shake the foundations. The gods heard the prophecy. Then they made it worse. Odin sent for them. The serpent went to the ocean. Hel went to rule the dead. Fenrir came to Asgard. They thought they could watch him there, keep him close. Know him. In Asgard's yard, the wolf cub looked up at gods who stepped back. All of them except one. Tyr came every day with meat. He sat on the ground. He didn't run. Fenrir grew. This was not a surprise. Everything the Norns had written was coming true, line by line, the way terrible things tend to, steadily, on schedule. The gods began to whisper. He'd outgrown the yard. He'd outgrown the hall. One day soon he'd outgrow Asgard. The prophecy whispered back, yes, exactly. They brought the first chain. Leading, iron enormous, made by the best smiths in Asgard. Fenrir looked at it. He said, put it on. He snapped it by flexing his shoulders. The second chain, Darmai, twice as heavy. The gods said, nothing breaks this. Fenrir let them put it on. He kicked once. Darkmai scattered across the sky like stars. So they went to the dwarves. The craftsmen who understand that the strongest things are made of what doesn't exist. And in Svartalfheim, the real story began. Before the wolf, there was a cave. Before the cave, there was a choice. Loki chose Angrboda, and the gods never forgave him for what that choice produced. Angrboda was a giantess. The gods called her the one who brings grief. She called herself a mother. Both things were true. Neither tells the whole story. 3 children. Jormungandr, who would grow to circle the whole world. Hel, born half living, half dead, to rule what no one wanted to rule. And Fenrir. The wolf cub opened his eyes. They were amber. Loki leaned in close and the wolf licked his face. That was before the prophecy arrived. Before any of it. Hugin and Munin found the cave. The ravens saw everything. They always did. They carried the news back to Odin before the wolf had learned to walk steadily. Odin called the seers. The seers called it clearly. The wolf would swallow the Allfather whole. No condition. No way around it. On the day called Ragnarök. The gods argued. Some said destroy the children now. Others said that itself would cause Ragnarök. They settled on the worst option, bring them close. Jormungandr was thrown into the ocean surrounding Midgard. Hel was given dominion over the dead, and Fenrir, the youngest, was brought to Asgard to be watched. Fenrir crossed Bifrost on a leash of iron. He was still small enough that a god could carry him. He looked at Asgard with the open curiosity of the very young. They put him in a yard. Stone walls, open sky. The gods came to look at him the way you look at something you're afraid of. From a distance, in groups. No god would approach him. Not Thor, who feared nothing else. Not Freyr. Not Heimdall. The wolf ate what was thrown from above. He grew used to looking up. Then Tyr came. He didn't stand above. He opened the gate, walked in, sat on the ground, and put the meat directly in front of him. That was all, at first. Then he looked at Tyr for a long time. Tyr looked back. Neither one moved. Outside, the other gods held their breath for nothing. Tyr came back the next day, and the next. He came in all weathers. He sat in the same spot. He brought meat from his own table, not the kitchen scrap. By the third week, Fenrir would rest his head on Tyr's knee. The god of justice sat very still and let him. He did not tell the other gods about this. The wolf learned Tyr's routine, learned the sound of his specific step on stone, would stand at the gate before it opened. Trust is slow. It had been given here. Here's the part the myths never make obvious. Fenrir wasn't growing because something was wrong with him. He was growing because he was alive. That's all. That was enough. Odin watched the growth charts like a general. Every fortnight larger. The prophecy didn't need to say when, it was saying when, in inches and winters. Tyr argued with Odin privately. The records don't say what he said, only what he did. He kept going to the yard. He kept sitting down. He kept showing up. Fenrir began to dream. The Norse knew animals dreamed, paws twitching, small sounds. What does a wolf dream of in Asgard, raised among gods who fear him? His siblings sent no word. He had no way to send word back. The ocean held Jormungandr. The dead held Hel, family, fractured across the 9 worlds by decree. Years passed. Fenrir outgrew the yard. They moved him to the plain beyond the walls. Then the plain became too small. The gods ran out of places to put him. Stay with this. It matters before the end. Tyr still came. Every day. Now he had to walk further. Now Fenrir had to lower his head significantly to be close. The gods called a council. The decision had already been made. They needed a chain. Not iron. Iron had failed twice now. Something else. Something impossible. 3 gods made the journey to Svartalfheim. Deep earth. Forged smoke and heat. The dwarves listened to what was needed. They said, "We can do this. Name your price." The dwarves asked for something in return. A secret, a future favor, the kind of payment that echoes down through time. The gods agreed. They always agreed. The ingredients of Gleipnir. The dwarves went to collect what could not be collected. The sound of a cat's footsteps. The beard of a woman. The roots of a mountain. The sinews of a bear. The breath of a fish. The spittle of a bird. Things that don't exist. Because bears have no sinews you can hold, fish breathe water, birds don't spit. They wove it together. Not forged, woven. It came out looking like a ribbon you might tie in a child's hair. Soft. The color of first light, impossibly thin. The gods returned to Asgard with a ribbon. Thor held it in one hand and laughed. Then tried to break it. His face went still. He tried again, and again. It held. Frigg tried. Each god who touched it came away unable to break it, and unwilling to explain why. It didn't resist, it simply remained. That was the terror. Now they needed Fenrir to wear it. This was the problem. Fenrir was not stupid. He had watched iron chains fail. He would know what they were doing. Tyr volunteered nothing. He was not consulted. The other gods arranged the plan and told him his role afterward. He agreed. He did not look happy about it. They would frame it as a game, a test of strength. They had done it with the iron chains. Let Fenrir prove how strong he was. They would do it again, with a ribbon. They invited Fenrir to Lyngvi. Tyr extended the invitation personally, the only one whose invitation the wolf would accept. He came willingly, he trusted. The boat across the Black Lake. Fenrir rowed in the bow, gods rowed. The water was still. The island looked like any island. Fenrir watched it approach. The gods presented Gleipnir. They said, "Can you break this?" They laughed. They made it light. They said, "It's nothing. Just a ribbon. Test yourself against it." Fenrir didn't touch it. He said I gain nothing by breaking a silk thread. If there's magic in this, and I can't break it, that's a different story. He was right. He made his condition. One god must place a hand in his mouth while the ribbon is on. Proof of good faith. If it's just a ribbon, this costs you nothing. No god moved. Not Thor. Not one of them. Then Tyr stepped forward. He placed his right hand in Fenrir's mouth. The wolf went still. The ribbon went on. The ribbon held. He pulled harder. The ribbon held. He looked at Tyr. Tyr looked back. Something was said between them in that silence that no text records. The Norse didn't invent fate as a comfort. Word, the web of what will be, was woven before you were born. The question was never, can I escape it? It was, how do I face it? Picture a storyteller 3,000 years ago, reaching this moment. The fire low. The children leaning in. They already knew the ending. That wasn't the point. Odin knew he would die. He went anyway. Tyr knew he would lose his hand. He extended it anyway. This was not stupidity. This was the Norse idea of courage. Fenrir was fate made flesh. The gods knew this. They tried to outrun a prophecy and discovered what every Norse story already knew. You cannot outrun it. You can only decide who you are while it arrives. This is why the story survived. Not because it warned you, but because it said you are not alone in facing things you cannot stop. The wolf knew. Tyr knew, and still they stood. Tyr's hand was gone. He did not scream. The accounts say he did not scream. He stepped back. He sat down on the grass. He was still there. Fenrir howled once. Then he was silent. The howl crossed all 9 worlds. Hel heard it in her hall. Jörmungandr felt it in the ocean. A family separated. Grieving. They placed a sword in his mouth, blade up, hilt down, to prop the jaw open. Then they left him there, on the island, in the dark, to waited. The saliva began to fall from his open mouth. It ran down, pooled, and became a river. The Norse called it Ven. The word means hope. Make of that what you will. Tyr went home. He no longer visited the island. Some say he couldn't. Some say Fenrir asked him not to. The truth is in the silence between both things. In Asgard, they held a feast to mark the binding. Tyr was there. He didn't eat. He sat at the far end of the table and watched the others celebrate. He said nothing. Odin gave a long speech about necessity, about what must be done for the 9 worlds to survive. Tyr listened. He was the god of justice, after all. He knew about necessity. Loki was not at the feast. He was somewhere else entirely. Not in Jotunheim, not in Asgard, nowhere anyone could find him. Fathers grieve in their own geographies. The wolf waited in the dark. He was not afraid of the dark. He was made of something like it. But waiting was a different kind of wait entirely. Seasons came to the island without him. Spring thawed the black lake. Autumn froze it again. The chains held. Gleipnir asked nothing of him, just held. Fenrir's children were born before the binding. Hati and Skelel, 2 wolves who carried their father's nature into the sky. They began their long chase immediately. The Skell chased the sun. Every day the sun ran. Every day Skelel ran after it. The Norse knew why some days feel short. The wolf is getting close. Give him that. Hati chased the moon each night. The moon was silver and patient. Hati was dark and relentless. Some nights the moon seems very bright. Those nights, Hati is far behind. In the dark beneath the earth, Fenrir heard the sky. He heard his children running. He heard the sound of their paws on the vault of the world. He waited. Odin sent Heimdall to watch for any change in the chain, any tremor, any loosening. Heimdall had ears that could hear wool growing on a sheep across 9 worlds. The gods lived with it. Ragnarök on the horizon like a mountain, not looming, just there. The way a thing you know is coming rearranges how you live each day before it arrives. Here's what the myths don't make obvious. Fenrir was still growing. Down in the dark. Slowly, glacially, he was still growing. Gleipnir held, but the wolf grew on. There is a particular kind of waiting that is not passive. Fenrir's waiting was structural. Every winter he was still there. Every winter was a winter Ragnarök wasn't. The gods began to tell the story, at feasts to children, to new gods who hadn't been there. Fenrir became a lesson. The lesson was, this is why we bound him. No one told the wolf's side. No one went to ask him. His name became a warning. A prophecy, a lesson. He was still there beneath it all, breathing, still waiting. Centuries, not years, centuries. The wolf waited through centuries. Mortals built kingdoms and lost them. The gods fought and feasted. The chain held, the wolf waited. Tyr's wrist healed. The skin closed over what wasn't there. He learned to hold his sword on the other side. He remained the god of justice. He remained, mostly. They say that when it stormed in Asgard, Tyr would stand at the wall facing the direction of Lyngvi. Just for a moment. Then go back inside. No one asked him why. Odin continued to consult the seeresses. What would break the chain? How long? When? They said the same thing each time, when Gleipnir is ready to let go, not a moment before. The wolf dreamed. The Norse believed dreams could be windows. Fenrir's dreams ran outward through the 9 worlds like the river Ven, touching everything, moving quietly. Loki was caught eventually, chained himself to rock beneath a serpent's venom. Father and son, both in chains. The world keeping them in the same posture, different rooms. They say the earth trembles because of Loki's movements beneath it. When the ground shakes, that's him adjusting. Far away, the wolf hears it. He always hears it. The river Ven grew slowly. A trickle became a stream, became a river that travelers noted on maps, made of waiting, made of patience, made of breath in the dark. The signs of Ragnarök are specific. Fimbulwinter, 3 winters with no summer between. Then the stars fall. Then Fenrir feels the chains begin to give. Then, the wolf felt it first. Before Heimdall saw, before the seers spoke, the chain moved, just slightly. The way a promise moves when it's finally about to break. He didn't move yet. He waited. Centuries of patience had made him very good at waiting. He breathed slowly. He watched the thread. He was in no hurry. The world could wait. The thread kept loosening. 1 filament, then 2. Gleipnir had held for longer than some stars. Now something in it was deciding it had held long enough. Above, Heimdall heard it. A sound like silk settling after centuries of tension. He reached for Jallarhorn. He put it down again. Not yet. Not quite yet. The sky changed. It had been changing for years. A degree of cold each winter that didn't fully leave. Now it was clear. Fimbulwinter was coming. The Great 3 Winter. The first winter of Fimbulwinter arrived and didn't leave. Snow in places that had not seen snow. Cold in the bones of the world. Mortals looked at the sky and knew. The second winter came before the first one ended. No summer between them. The crops that hadn't grown rotted under new snow. The world was very cold and very quiet. In the cave, Fenrir felt the cold change. He had felt many winters. This one felt different. This one felt like a door opening in a house that had been sealed. Gleipnir loosened further. 3 threads now. The ribbon still held, but it was holding differently. The way a note holds when the song is almost over. Heimdall raised the horn, held it to his lips, then lowered it again. He sent a raven to Odin instead. The Allfather sat alone with the message for a long time. The Allfather went to Yggdrasil. He sat at the roots. He asked the tree what he already knew. The tree told him. He sat there for a long time afterward. Then he stood. He summoned the Einherjar, the warriors of Valhalla who had trained for this. Thousands of them. They had been training since before some of them could remember. In Midgard, mortals dreamed of wolves. The dreams were not nightmares. Just wolves, running enormous and fast. Hati closing on the moon, skill reaching the sun. The third winter came, no one was surprised. Everyone was afraid. Those are not the same thing. Understanding what is happening does not make it smaller. Stars began to fall, not metaphorically. One by one, then in showers, the stars came loose from their places and fell. The sky was being unmade above the world. The Nagfar set sail. The ship made of the nails of the dead. Every uncut nail of every corpse since the first death. The Norse trimmed their nails for this reason. Deep in the earth, Loki felt his chains give. Father and son, separated by rock and water and prophecy, coming loose at the same moment. Some things are synchronous. Gleipnir let go. It didn't break. It let go. There's a difference. The ribbon simply opened, thread by thread. The way a hand opens when it has held long enough. The sword fell from his jaw. It clattered on stone. After so long, no sword, no chain. Fenrir closed his mouth. This was the first time in centuries he had closed his mouth. He stood, slowly. Muscles that hadn't moved in centuries finding themselves again. He was enormous. He filled the cave. The cave couldn't hold him. He went up. The island of Lyngvi was gone. He had grown through it. He stood in the lake and the lake was too shallow. He stepped out. His paw covered a hillside. He opened his mouth. Not to eat, not yet. Just to open it. Upper jaw at the sky, lower jaw at the earth. The space between them where the world would end. Heimdall raised Jallarhorn. This time he didn't lower it. The sound crossed all 9 worlds simultaneously. Everything that was sleeping woke. Everything awake stopped. Odin heard. He had been waiting for it his whole life. He called for his armor, his spear Gungnir, his horse Sleipnir. The horse that could cross any terrain. Thor reached for Mjolnir. Freyr found his sword, the one that fought on its own. Tyr buckled his blade on the left side. All of them moving, all of them knowing. The gods moved toward Vigrir, the great plain, large enough for a final battle. The Einherjar behind them, the sky above falling apart in long arcs of cold light. Fenrir moved toward the plain too, each step reshaping the landscape. He didn't run, he walked. He was in no hurry. He had been patient for a very long time. Skilel caught the sun. The light changed. Not darkness, something more complex. The absence of warmth in the light. The sun still there but held now. Changed. Hati caught the moon. The night side of the world went fully dark. For the first time since the first night, there was no moon. The sky was just stars and then less stars. Jadar rose from the ocean. The great serpent had circled the world since the beginning. Now it let go. The sea followed it upward, flooding everything. Surtur came from Muspelheim with fire, the fire giant who had waited longer even than Fenrir. His sword was the light of a dying sun. He set the world tree burning. Vigrir received them all, gods and monsters, giants and the honored dead. The plain was as large as the stories had always said it would need to be. It was barely enough. Odin on Sleipnir looked across the plain at Fenrir. The wolf looked back. Both of them had always known this moment would come. Neither of them had avoided it. The other battles began first. Thor and Jormungandr. Those two had their own long reckoning. Tyr found the hound Garm, who guarded Hell's Gate. They knew each other. Freyr fought Surtur without his sword. He'd given his sword away for love, traded it for the giantess Jur. He fought the fire giant bare-handed. He lost. Odin rode toward Fenrir. Gungnir leveled. The wolf opened his jaw. The Allfather threw the spear. It struck. Fenrir barely slowed. He had waited too long. Fenrir swallowed Odin whole. It happened quickly, not cruelly, just finally, the way prophecy always happens, exactly as foretold, exactly as dreaded. Exactly. Odin's son. He had one purpose. He had been made for this moment. His boot was the thickest ever crafted. Made from every leather scrap the cobblers saved. Var placed his boot in Fenrir's lower jaw. He took the upper jaw in his hands. He pulled. The wolf that had swallowed a god was torn apart from the inside of its own mouth. The wolf was still. The battle continued. Thor killed Jormungandr and walked 9 steps and fell. The world that had been made was coming to its end, all of it finally. Surtur's fire reached Yggdrasil's heart. The great tree burned. The 9 worlds shook. The ocean rose over everything. Then, quiet. Then, something else. New. The earth rose from the water again. Green, the stories always say this. The earth rose, green, and the surviving gods found each other on the new plain and sat down. They found, in the new grass, the golden game pieces of the old gods, tokens from the age before. The Norse saw this as important play survived, Joved. A man and a woman had hidden in Yggdrasil's wood during the end. They emerged, Lef and Latif Rizir, life and life's yearning. They began again, from the world tree's shelter. This is the part the scary version of Ragnarök always forgets. The end was also the beginning. The Norse built Ragnarök into their cosmology as a cycle, not a cliff. The wolf was not in the new world. Fenrir belonged to the old one. He had been made for it, bound by it, freed by it, and he ended with it. This is not a tragedy, it is a completion. But go back. Before the fire and the flood, before Vigrir. Go back to the cave. To the dark. To what the wolf thought about alone, for all those centuries. What do you think about, in the dark, when you have no choice but to stay? Fenrir had centuries to decide what he was inside the thing they'd made him into. He remembered his mother. This is speculation, the myths don't say. But she had been warm. The cave in Jotunheim had been warm. He had been small. It had been enough. He remembered Tyr. Specifically, the sound of Tyr's footstep on the yard stone. How it was different from every other footstep. How it meant, someone is coming who won't run. He wasn't angry at Tyr. This is the part that matters. The wolf was not angry at the one who put his hand in. He understood. He understood from the beginning. The dwarves who made Gleipnir understood something specific. The strongest things in the world are made of what doesn't exist. Absence, potential, the shape of what is missing. The sound of a cat's footsteps doesn't exist because you can't catch it. Cats move in silence. But the dwarves knew the sound is there. The silence around it proves it. Iron breaks because it resists. Gleipnir held because it yielded. The Norse understood this in their ships too. A hull that flexes survives seas that shatter rigid ones. 3,000 years later, material engineers call this tensegrity. Strength through flexible tension. The dwarves of Svartalfheim discovered it first, working with nothing. Gleipnir was not cruel. It did what it was made to do, with complete fidelity, for exactly as long as it was needed. When it let go cleanly. That is craft. Back in the cave, the wolf thought about his children running through the sky above him. He could hear them sometimes, the distant thunder of enormous paws on air. He thought about Jormungandr, the serpent, circling the world in the cold water. His brother. The one who held everything together while holding himself, the quiet one. He thought about Hel. Half alive, half dead, ruling the cold halls where the ordinary dead came. She had made something good from what she was given. He knew this. He thought about the river. The Vian. How it had grown from nothing. From the simple fact of his breathing in the dark. He had made something without trying, just by being. The Norse named the river Ven. Hope. They knew the wolf made it. They named it Hope anyway. Or because of it. A monster's patience renamed. This is not accidental. Centuries. The wolf thought in geological time, not about tomorrow, not about escape, about the texture of things, the weight of stone, the sound of the river. The earth trembled sometimes. Loki, beneath his own stone, adjusting. Fenrir felt it as a hand on a wall, faint familial. Father and son, stone between them still present. A fish found its way into the cave once, through the river. It swam near the wolf's eye. The wolf watched it without moving. The fish left. This was interesting. The sky above the island changed over centuries. He couldn't see it. But he could feel the light changes through the cave's fissures. He knew the seasons by light quality. Here's what matters before the end. Fenrir did not become bitter. He did not shrink into his wound. He remained fully what he was, a wolf, an enormous one. Waiting. Some say, the versions that the skalds told in the quieter halls, that the wolf sang sometimes, low and slow. Not a howl, a hum. The river Ven carried it outward. The birds on the island above him, they nested in the grass near the chains. They didn't know what was beneath them. They raised young there. Year after year, the wolf heard all of it. Tyr did not forget. The myths don't say he remembered, but absence is its own kind of record. He remained the god of justice. He remained the one-handed god, both things. Odin visited the Sirises fewer times as the years went. Not because the answers changed. Because they didn't. He had asked enough. He knew enough. He lived on. The wolf felt the seasons change in his bones. Winter, the stone contracted, held him slightly tighter. Summer, it breathed outward. He learned the rhythm. He moved with it. He grew. Still even bound. Even in the dark, he grew in the way that mountains grow, imperceptibly, continuously, over longer timescales than patience has a name for. The first sign was the taste of the air. Something changed in what came down through the fissures. Cold. A different cold. The kind that doesn't leave Fimbulwinter's edge. He didn't celebrate. He just noticed. The way you notice when something you've been waiting a very long time for has finally, quietly, begun. He breathed. He noticed. The second sign was sound. The sky above was louder. Not thunder. Something structural. Stars moving out of their paths. Hattie and Scale running differently, faster. The third sign was Gleipnir. The first thread. And then the wolf waited again. This time knowing the wait was measured in days, not centuries. He could afford days. He thought of Tyr one more time. Before the end. He held the thought the way you hold something warm before you set it down. Carefully, completely, then gently let go. He thought of his mother, her fire, the cave in Jotunheim warm before the gods decided what he was. He held that. He let it warm him. Then the threads loosened further. He thought of the fish. The small one in the cave pool. How it had come and gone and never known what it was near. He was glad the fish had not been afraid. He meant it. He thought of the birds, nesting above him year after year, their children going south and coming back, south and back. The whole of their small lives lived above his waiting. He thought of the river one final time. The Ven, how it had gone out into the world, named Hope, traveled by fish, drunk by animals. He had made something, just by persisting. Gleipnir was almost open. 3 threads, 5, 7. The ribbon that had held an age was yielding at last. The wolf breathed slowly. He was ready. He had been ready. The sword fell first. This is where the story came back to. The sword in the jaw. Gone. The jaw closing for the first time in longer than he could measure. The simplest relief. Opening. Thread by thread. Each one a year returning. Each one a winter given back. The ribbon opening like a hand that has held too long finally resting. He stood. The cave was too small. He went up. The island was too small. The lake was too shallow. He stepped out. His paw covered a hillside. Everything was too small. He did not run toward the gods. He stood still and breathed. He breathed the cold of Fimbulwinter, and it tasted like beginning. He breathed for a long time, then moved. He opened his jaw against the sky, upper jaw at the clouds, lower jaw at the earth, not hunger, just space. The luxury of space. He had forgotten how large space could be. Above, Heimdall raised Jallarhorn. He had waited his whole existence for this moment too. The horn's sound crossed every world. Everything that was sleeping woke. The wolf heard the horn. He knew what it meant. It meant come. It meant now. It meant the last act is beginning. He moved toward it. He was in no hurry. The plane would wait. The battles on Vigrir were already loud. Thunder from Thor's hammer. Fire from Surtur's sword. The serpent's body crashing through the flooding sea, and the wolf arriving. Odin rode out on Sleipnir. The 8-legged horse was the fastest thing alive. Neither of them was fast enough. They had never been fast enough. This was always the story. Fenrir looked at Odin, and what he felt was not hatred. This is the part the scary version always gets wrong. It was recognition. The end of a very long story. Arriving. Gungnir flew. The wolf opened his mouth and the spear went in, and it didn't matter. Nothing mortal, forged could have mattered. Fenrir closed his jaw. The world changed. Var moved through the chaos. Silent. Purposeful. He had one task. He had trained for it since before he was old enough to lift a sword. The boot. The grip. The wolf felt Var arrive. He didn't move away. He had fulfilled the prophecy. He had done what the seers said. He was complete. He waited for what came next as he had waited for everything. Var placed his boot against the lower jaw, took the upper jaw in his hands. The wolf felt this. He closed his amber eyes. He had been patient for so long, a little longer. The wolf was still. Vigrir went quiet in that corner. The battle continued elsewhere. But there for a moment, just the sound of the flooding sea, and the aurora and nothing. The battle didn't end cleanly. Battles never do. After the first climax, after the wolf, after Odin, the plain of Vigrir still burned. Other debts were still being paid. Tyr and Garm had fought each other to a standstill. The hound who guarded Hell's Gate, the god who had put his hand in a wolf's mouth. Both fell, neither retreated. Thor killed Jörmungandr, then walked 9 steps, then fell. The poison of the world serpent takes exactly that long, 9 steps. The thunder god had counted them before. Surtur's fire reached the world tree's roots. Yggdrasil burned. The Norse accounts say this quietly. The way you speak of something too large for the voice to hold. The ocean rose. It came from every direction. The flooding was total. Not violent, simply complete. The way sleep comes when you have been awake too long, inevitable. Beneath the water quiet. The chaos of Ragnarök, all of it, absorbed by the ocean. The world that had held so much tension went still at the bottom of the sea. Then the earth moved upward. A new shore broke the surface. Green, immediately, impossibly green. The Norse accounts say this too, as simply as they said everything else. The surviving gods found each other. Vili, Mui and Magni, Thor's sons, carrying their father's hammer between them. They came from different directions and sat down. Baldur returned. He had died before Ragnarök, killed by mistletoe, mourned by everything in the 9 worlds. Now he walked out of the new light. He looked rested. Aer came with him. The blind god who threw the mistletoe. The one the myths blame for Baldur's death. He walked beside his brother in the new world. Both returned. These sat together, these survivors. They didn't speak immediately. They looked at the new green. They listened to the ocean at its edges. Then someone said, "Do you remember?" One of them found the golden game pieces, lying in the new grass exactly where the old Asgard had been. Small golden discs, tokens from the god's hall, warm to the touch. This detail matters. The Norse chose to include it. Not weapons, not crowns, not the great artifacts of power. What outlasted everything was something you play with. Think about that. Lef and Lusif Rizir emerged from Yggdrasil's wood. 2 mortals who had sheltered in the world tree during the end. They stepped into the new world blinking. It was very green. Lef means life. Leshef Rizir means life's yearning. The Norse named them exactly what they were, not survivors by accident, but life choosing itself when everything else stopped. Yggdrasil was still standing, charred at its base, but its highest branches held green. The world tree had survived its own world ending. Some things are rooted too deep to burn. The Norns were still weaving. They had not stopped. The thread of the old world had ended. The thread of the new world was already in their hands. They worked in silence. Here is the new threat. Not a monster, not a giant. The new threat is what the old world already understood, and what the new world will have to learn again. Choice. The gods knew something the new mortals didn't yet, that the cycle would run again. That somewhere in the new world's future, the Norns were already weaving something that would need patience to bear. Baldur spoke first, in the circle of surviving gods. He said, "I was not afraid in Hell's Hall." He said it was quiet there. He said, "I missed the light." This felt like enough. Mummy said, "Father walked 9 steps." Magni said, "I counted them too." They sat with that for a while. Then one of them laid Mjolnir in the grass between them. Left it there. Vizir said nothing. He sat slightly apart and looked at his boot. The thick one. He did not take it off. He pulled his knee up and sat with it. The others left him to it. No one mentioned the wolf by name. Not yet. The name would come later in the stories they would tell. For now, just the plain and the green and what it had cost. The river Ven was gone too, absorbed into the new ocean. Its name, Hope, traveled with it. Somewhere in the new sea, the river ran on, unnamed now, but still moving. The sun came back. Not the same sun. Skiel still had that one. But the old sun had left a daughter in the sky. She took her mother's route. Different. Enough. A new moon appeared too, smaller, brighter. Hattie was gone. The moon could move at her own pace now. She moved slowly. She seemed to enjoy it. Make of that what you will. The gods began to build. Not in the old way, not Asgard rebuilt, exactly. Something new. Using what they'd learned. Carrying the weight of what they knew, building anyway. Lujif and Lif Razir built too. Further away, small things. A shelter, a fire. The basics of a human life, assembled in the new world's first afternoon. It looked like hope. Night fell on the new world for the first time. The stars were different. Some old ones gone. Some new ones that had no name yet. The gods looked up and began making names. Somewhere in the new stars, something the old stories had always promised the wolf's amber eyes. Looking down, not angry, not hungry, simply present, the way the patient always are. The new world settled. The gods built, Lef and Laef Razor built. The Norns wove. But in the evenings, when the new fire burned low, someone always told the story. They told it carefully, not as a warning, as a reckoning. What happened, what it cost, what it meant that Tyr extended his hand, what it meant that the wolf understood. Baldur told the part about hell. He had been there. He said she was fair. He said she was quiet. He said she took care of them. He didn't say it was easy, but he said that. Mumki told the part about Thor. He kept it brief. He said 9 steps. He said he counted out loud. He said he sounded like himself the whole way, then silent. No one told the wolf's part that first night. They weren't ready. The story was in them. They had all been there. But some parts need a night between the having and the telling. The second night, Var told the wolf's part. He said he waited longer than any of us knew how to count. He said when I arrived, he wasn't raging, he was still. He said I think he was ready. He said, I don't know if that makes it better or worse. He said it quietly. Someone across the fire said maybe both. No one disagreed. The stories went outward. This is how myths travel, from that fire to the next. From gods to the mortals who came after Ludief and Lysief Rizir. Outward, always outward. The skalds came. Poets who memorized in meters. Who could hold thousands of lines in their heads perfectly. The stories of the Norse gods lived in human memory, before they lived in ink. They told Fenrir's story in kennings. Poetic compounds. Wolf, father for Loki, chain breaker for Fenrir, the hand gift of Tyr for what Tyr gave, language that held grief sideways. Here's the part that matters before the end. The skalds didn't simplify him. They kept his complexity. The wolf who was chained before he could choose, the wolf who understood. They crossed the sea. Norse people carried these stories on long ships to Iceland, to Britain, to the shores of Normandy. The wolf traveled with them, he always had. In Iceland they wrote it down. Snorri Sturluson, in the 13th century, set the prose Edda to vellum. Fenrir survived the Viking Age in ink, then print, then here. The story survived because it was honest. It didn't make the gods entirely good. It didn't make Fenrir entirely evil. It held both, and the discomfort between them. 1,000 years of retelling, each teller adding what their age needed. Some made Fenrir more monstrous. Some made him more sympathetic. The story absorbed all of it. Children grew up with him. Norse children heard the wolf's name early. Not as nightmare but as fixture. Something in the sky that was chasing the sun. Something that would one day catch it. The wolf made sense of the sky. Eclipses, that's Fenrir opening his jaw. Fast sunsets, Skelil is gaining. The mythology was a way of living inside a world that was, otherwise, very large and unexplained. This is how mythology works. It doesn't explain things in the way that science does. It holds things. It gives the enormous a shape you can name, and therefore stand next to without falling. Fenrir gave people something to say when the sun went down fast. When the cold came early. When things they'd been counting on didn't hold. He was the name for when the chain breaks. And yet, and this is the part that changes everything, the story always included the new world. The green earth after, the sun's daughter, the golden game pieces always. The word Ragnarök doesn't mean end of the world. The way we tend to use it, rock means fate, judgment, reason. The twilight of the powers, not a cliff, a turning. The Norse lived in a world of cycles. Winter and summer, death and rebirth, the tide coming and going. Ragnarök fit into this understanding. It was the largest winter. Spring still came. This shaped how they held the wolf. Fenrir was not the enemy of life. He was the agent of the turning. Without him, the old world could not end. Without the ending, no new beginning. Picture the storyteller by the fire, 3,000 years ago. The children fear the wolf. The elder says yes. And the wolf ends this world. Another comes. This is the way. We've inherited this. The understanding that things can end and something follows. The wolf teaches this, not by being good or evil, but by being the moment that makes the after possible. Back to the cave. The long dark. Go back to what the wolf held all those centuries. The question underneath the story is, what do you do when you can't change what's happening? Fenrir didn't transcend his situation. He didn't escape it. He didn't pretend it was something else. He lived inside it fully and made a river. That is a kind of answer. The Norse didn't call this resignation. They didn't have a word for resignation, exactly. They had words for courage in the face of known defeat. Those words were not the same thing. They had a word, drengskaper, roughly the quality of going through something hard as yourself without diminishing. Fenrir had it. In the dark, in the chain, in the centuries. This is why the wolf is still told. Not because he's a monster. Because he shows something about how to be inside a situation you didn't choose and cannot leave. Tyr had it too. The moment he stepped forward, when no one else would, was drengskaper. The hand offered into the wolf's mouth. The thing done even knowing the cost. The story holds them both. The wolf who waited with everything taken from him. The god who gave up the hand that took everything from him. Two kinds of the same quality. The wolf didn't forgive the gods. The story doesn't say he did. It also doesn't say he hated them. It says he waited. It says when the time came, he went to Vigrir. He fulfilled his prophecy. He did the thing he was bound to do. He did it as himself. This is the Norse idea of a life well ended. You do the thing you were made for. You do it whole. Odin did the same. He rode out on Sleipnir knowing. He threw Gungnir knowing. He met the wolf knowing. Two beings doing what they were made for as themselves at the end. Tyr did the same at Vigrir. He fought Garm knowing. The one-handed god of justice fighting the hound of hell, knowing neither would walk away, he went anyway. The story is full of beings who went to their ends as themselves. This is what the Norse meant when they honored someone. Not that they survived, that they were whole. The wolf was never a villain. He was a prophecy, and a child, and a being who made a river named Hope just by breathing in the dark. These things are all true at once. 3,000 years of telling. The wolf is still here, in this room, in this telling. The amber eyes in the New World stars looking down at Lutjef and Lutzief Razir, who don't know his name. Fenrir didn't stay in the Viking Age, he traveled. The wolf, who will eat. The sun arrived in every culture that told stories about wolves and endings, and what comes after. Tolkien read the Eddas. He read them carefully. The great wolves of Middle-earth, Karchereth, Drogluin, carry Fenrir's shadow, the wolf that is too large, the chain that breaks. The werewolf legend carries him too. The wolf beneath the human surface. The nature that can't be permanently chained, that breaks free in the full moon's light. The anxiety is Fenrir's. In game design, in film, in 1,000 fantasy novels. When there is a wolf bound by magic, a wolf that will end the world. A wolf with amber eyes that knows things, that is Fenrir. He survived because he was true. Every version of Fenrir that lasts keeps his complexity. The ones that reduce him to monster don't last. The wolf who is also innocent always outlasts the wolf who was just a threat, returned to the question at the center of the story. The gods saw the prophecy. They made a chain. Did the chain cause what they feared, or prevent what they feared? The answer is yes. This is the self-fulfilling prophecy as the Norse understood it. Not a mistake. Not avoidable. The feature of fate that makes it fate rather than prediction. The chain was always going to happen. The wolf knew this. This is in his amber eyes. The patience isn't patience exactly. It's understanding. He knows the chain is part of the story. He knows he is not separate from it. Odin knew too. The single eye that saw everything. He made the chain knowing it would break. He bound the wolf knowing the wolf would eventually not be bound. He did the work anyway. This is the Norse gift. A cosmology in which everyone knows the ending and everyone acts anyway. Not despite the knowledge inside it. The action and the knowledge held together without collision. The wolf waited in the dark and made a river named Hope. The god of justice gave his hand and kept coming back. The Allfather rode out to his death on his best horse. These are not defeats. And now you're here. The story has traveled 3,000 years to be in this room. You found it, or it found you, which might be the same thing. Both are fine. The wolf has something for nights like this. Nights when something has felt unfair. When you've been patient longer than patience should require. When the chain held when you pulled. He didn't become bitter. This is the most important thing. He remained fully what he was, a wolf, an enormous one, who knew his situation and lived in it completely. When the chain finally gave, he breathed first, long, slow, before moving, before anything. He breathed the air of Fimbulwinter, and it tasted like himself. He was still there. He was still a wolf, still enormous, still himself. The cave had not diminished him. The chain had not reduced him. He emerged from both as what he had always been. The new world carries him. In the amber stars, in the story told around new fires, in the rivers named Hope, in every bound thing that remains itself despite the binding. Tyr carries him too, in the missing hand, in the choice that cost it, in every act of justice that knows it will be expensive and does it anyway. That is Tyr and Fenrir together. The wolf's name means the one who lives in the fen, the marsh, the borderland between water and land. He was always the creature of the threshold, of the between place, the borderland, the fen, the place that is not quite one thing and not quite another. Fenrir lived there literally and figuratively. Not monster, not victim, the between. This is where the story rests, not resolved, not clean held, the wolf in the between. The river named Hope, the amber eyes in the new stars, the golden pieces in the new grass. Let the images settle, the cave going quiet, the chain on the floor, the river moving, the amber eyes in the new sky watching. Everything at its distance, everything at rest. The new world is dark and new, and the fire has burned down to coals. Var pulled his cloak around himself. The others were already asleep on the new grass. The night was very still. He looked up at the two amber lights for a long time. He didn't know what to call them. He decided not to name them yet. Some things deserve to be unnamed for a while. He put his boot down in the new grass. It sank slightly. Good earth. The world had good earth, still. He lay back. He looked at the stars. He let himself be there. The fire was down to one coal. Red, the ember held through the night. The way one warm thing always manages to hold through the dark, when everything else has gone quiet. The ocean at the new world's edge made its sound. Back and forth, the oldest sound. It had been making it before the old world, and would make it after. Somewhere in the dark, Lef and Lizief Razir slept in their small shelter. The smoke from their fire had gone out. The world was very quiet. The night held everything, gently. The wolf's amber eyes looked down at all of it. The way he had looked at the fish in the cave pool. The way he had listened to the birds. Patient. Present, not hungry. This is the part of the story the scary version never reaches. The wolf at rest. Not chained, resting. The difference is enormous. When you're not forced to be still, stillness is its own kind of freedom. The Ven ran somewhere in the new ocean's memory. Hope, unnamed now but still moving. You could find it if you followed the current that flows where the old island was. Sleep is its own kind of cave. Dark, contained, outside of ordinary time. The wolf knows something about that. He spent a long time learning to rest inside constraint. What the wolf knows about the dark, it doesn't stay. It holds you for a while, and then the threads loosen and you surface. The chain always opens eventually. Always. The wolf rests in the sky of the new world. The story is here, in this room, in the dark behind your eyes. Let it settle. You don't have to do anything with it. Just let it be there. The river named Hope runs somewhere. In the ocean, in the direction water always moves. Downhill outward, toward the sea. The wolf made it, just by being there. The new world's first night is very long. The way first nights tend to be. The gods are sleeping. The mortals are sleeping. The wolf is resting. The Norns are weaving. The chain is on the floor of the old world. Under the sea. The island is gone. But the ribbon still glows softly down there. It finished its task. It rests in completion. The sword is there too. The one that kept his jaw open. Resting on the old island stone. Neither of them asking anything of anyone now. Both finished, both at peace. The story is complete. The wolf is complete. The river runs. The stars hold. The new world breathes. You can let this settle now. Everything is at the distance it belongs. The wolf breathed. This is where we return. Always. The wolf breathed in the dark and made a river. Whatever your cave is tonight, you're breathing in it. That's also something. Here is what the story is, finally. A wolf was born innocent. He was feared before he could act. He was bound before he could choose. He waited. He endured. He completed. A god chose to feed him when no one else would. The god lost his hand. He didn't lose himself. The god of justice remained just, even in the situation that wasn't. A king faced his death knowing it was his death. He armed himself. He rode out. He threw his best spear. He did not hide. He did not hesitate. He met the wolf whole. A wolf breathed in the dark for centuries and made a river named Hope. He didn't plan it. He just breathed. The river was what breathing in the dark produces, given enough time. This is the reckoning. The wolf was not justified by the new world. He was not redeemed. He was completed. These are not the same thing. He was always who he was. That was enough. The story doesn't ask you to forgive the gods. It doesn't ask you to sympathize with the wolf. It asks you to hold both at once. And in holding both, understand something about the world. What the world does sometimes, it makes something, fears what it made, tries to contain it, fails, and then has to reckon with both the making and the containing. This is very old. What the individual does, sometimes they wait in the dark. They make a river named Hope, without knowing that's what they're making, and eventually the ribbon opens. This is also very old. Fenrir was the wolf. You are not the wolf. But the dark is real. The chain is sometimes real. The river is real. The amber eyes watching from the new stars are real. The story holds. The Skalds said the wolf's name means hope in the river that ran from his waiting. They named it Ven. They knew what they were saying. 3,000 years later, so do you. The story ends in the new world. Green and quiet. The amber stars above. The golden pieces in the grass. The ocean at the edge. The first fire burning. Everything at rest. Let the cave go dark. The chain is already on the floor. The river is already moving. The stars are already there. You don't have to do anything. The story has done its work. The wolf rests. The new world breathes. The ocean moves. Somewhere in the new stars, two amber lights hold steady, warm. Not hunting. Not waiting. Finally, the story is complete. The new world is green. The river runs in the ocean. The stars hold. The chain rests on the cave floor under the sea. Everything is at its distance. The wolf breathed. This is where it starts and where it ends. In the dark, just breathing. Making something without knowing what. The river goes outward, named Hope, still going. Let that be enough for tonight. The wolf made a river just by being there. You've made something too, just by getting here. This is not a small thing. The dark knows it. And now the reckoning completes. The wolf swallowed the sun. The sun left a daughter. She took the old route. The light returned. Fenrir made the new light possible. The moon moves freely now. Hattie is gone with the old world. The moon goes at her own speed. She is slower now. She lingers. She seems to prefer the new pace. What the wolf made in the end, a new sun. A slower moon. A river named Hope, 2 amber stars. And the possibility of the world that follows the world that cannot last forever. 3,000 years ago, someone by a fire said, "There is a wolf who made hope just by breathing." The fire went out. The story didn't. Now you have it. Now it's yours. The wolf rests. You can rest. The amber eyes in the new stars are watching, not because something is wrong, because this is what patience looks like when it is finally its own. The story has told itself. What remains is the weight of it, the specific gravity of a myth that held for 3,000 years without losing its center. Let's find the center. The center of the story is not the end of the world. It's the yard in Asgard. The gate opening. Tyr walking in, sitting on the ground. The wolf watching this different thing happen. The center is Tyr crossing the yard when everyone else stayed back. Not because the wolf was safe. Because the wolf deserved someone who would cross the yard. Those are different. Prophecy as prison. This is the story's sharpest edge. The gods feared what the wolf would do. Their fear created the conditions that made the wolf into what they feared. The Norse didn't resolve this. They held it. Both things true simultaneously. The gods were right to be afraid. The wolf was wronged. Neither fact cancels the other. Both remain. What does it mean to be punished for what you haven't done? The wolf story is specific enough to be mythological and general enough to be personal. You may know something about this. What does it mean to remain yourself when you are being defined by someone else's fear? Fenrir answers this. Not with a speech. With 3,000 years of amber eyes. Tyr's answer is different but equal. What does it mean to do right in a situation where right is insufficient? He fed the wolf. He gave his hand. It wasn't enough. He did it anyway. Hope made from breathing in the dark. This is the River Ven's teaching. You don't have to be trying to make hope. You just have to keep breathing. The river forms on its own. Persistence is creation. The wolf didn't make the river by trying. He made it by not stopping. This is a different kind of making. Patient, involuntary, real. The cycle completes and begins again. This is the Norse gift to the story. The ending is also a turning. The wolf at the end of the old world is the condition of the new world's beginning. The golden pieces in the new grass. Play survives. This is deliberate. The Norse chose to include it. Not weapons, not thrones, toys. The things you pick up and begin again with. Joy survives. This is the deepest teaching of the Norse cosmology. Not victory. The gods lost, not immortality. Even Odin died joy. The small golden pieces in the new grass. The wolf is not in the new world, and he is in the new world. He is in the river's direction. He is in the new sun's existence. He is in the amber stars. He is in this story. He is in Tyr's wrist. In the way Tyr holds a sword now. In every choice made at cost because the right thing rarely comes free. The wolf lives in the gap between what's right and what's easy. 3 questions the story asks and holds without answering. Can you be whole inside an unfair situation? Can you remain yourself when defined by someone else's fear? Can you make something just by persisting? Fenrir says yes, yes, and yes. Not with words, with the river named Hope, with the amber eyes unchanged across 3,000 years, with the way the story still holds tonight. This is enough for tonight. The cave is complete. The river runs. The story has come to its natural resting place. Let the wolf's patience settle into you. It doesn't have to be work. The wolf rests in the new world's sky. The river runs in the new world's ocean. The golden pieces are in the new world's grass. Everything is where it belongs, finally, completely. Let yourself settle into the dark behind your eyes. The wolf is already there. He's been there a long time. He knows how to wait. Tonight, So do you. The rune stones still stand. In Scandinavia, in Iceland, in museum cases with careful lighting. Fenrir's name carved into some of them. The wolf in stone, still waiting. The prose Edda survives. Snorri's manuscript in Reykjavik, still intact. The wolf's story in his handwriting, or close to it. 800 years of careful keeping. The days of the week carry the Norse gods. Wednesday, Woden's day. Odin, Thursday, Thor's day. Friday, Frigg's day. Every week, the gods walk through modern time. The wolf has no day, he was too large for a day. He got the sky instead. 2 amber stars in the new world. The boundless rather than the bounded. This seems right. Wolves are protected now in Norway and Sweden. The legal debates about them echo the old argument, the wolf is dangerous. The wolf belongs. Both things are still true. Both sides still use those words. When the sun moves fast across a winter sky, Skiel is close. The Norse explanation still works. Not because it's scientific. Because it gives the hurrying light a name. When something holds longer than you expected, a relationship, a structure, a promise, and then finally gives way, that's Gleipnir. The impossible thing that held exactly as long as it needed to. When someone sits on the ground beside something everyone else is afraid of, that's Tyr. Still, always. The gesture that is also the definition of what courage looks like before it looks like anything. When you breathe in the dark and keep going without knowing what you're making. That's the river Ven. Already moving. Already named Hope by someone who will come after you and find it flowing. The wolf's legacy is not the ending of the world. It is the river. It is the amber stars. It is the patience the story offers to anyone who finds themselves in the dark, breathing, waiting for the ribbon to give. The story is behind you now. The cave, the chain, the river, the stars. All of it settling into the dark the way good stories do. Like weight leaving the shoulders. Like quiet arriving. The new world is asleep. The gods are asleep in the new grass. The mortals are asleep in their small shelter. The ocean moves at the edges. The night holds everything softly. The ocean at the new world's edge. Back and forth. Back and forth. The oldest sound there is. It was making this sound before the first world, and will make it after the last. The wind moves through the new world's grass. A low sound, like breathing. The world itself breathing now, in and out. The rhythm underneath everything. Let yourself find it. Yggdrasil breathes too. The great tree in the new world, its leaves moving in the same wind. The oldest living thing still here. Still making the small sound leaves make. The amber stars are steady. They have always been steady. They will be steady through the rest of this night and the one after. The wolf knows how to hold a watch, rest into it. The river runs in the dark ocean. You cannot hear it from here, but it's moving. Named Hope, still going. You don't have to listen for it. It doesn't need to be heard to move. Let your breathing slow. The wolf learned this. In the cave, the breath that makes a river does not need to be fast or purposeful. Just present. Just continuous, just yours. The new world holds. The grass, the ocean, the tree, the stars. All of it holding through the night. You are held too. In the dark. In the breathing. In the amber watch above. Good night from the wolf. From the river named Hope. From the one-handed god who sat on the ground. From the new world's first green morning, which hasn't come yet. Rest until it does.